Welcome to Want More with Dr. Moore, the criminologist of the Bay, where we bring you cases and insights at the intersection of justice and society. I'm your host, Dr. Talia Moore, and today we'll be looking at the Diddy case as well as why Diddy was denied bail. Bail is a legal mechanism that allows a person who is being charged with a crime to actually fight their case out of custody. Essentially, it is a guarantee that if you are released, you will continue to show up for all subsequent court hearings. So that's the expectation of what bail is. I do want to say bail is a privilege and not a right, even though it is readily utilized within our judicial system. When bail is set, the individual who is being charged with a case is able to pay an amount, usually a small percentage of what the overall larger bail amount is, and they're able to be released for their case so that they're able to prepare for all of their court proceedings out of custody, which you can imagine is a much better setup than having to sit behind a cell wall in preparation for a case. There are reasons why bail would be denied, and those reasons would be if someone is considered a flight risk. It could also involve the gravitas and seriousness of the charges that they are facing, and also if they are considered a threat to the community as well. So while bail is typically granted in most cases, in those rare instances where those are concerns, bail would be denied. In a recent case involving a prolific hip hop artist and really mogul of the industry, we have an individual who is detained in custody, and even after 3 attempts at posting bail, bail has been denied. And so it makes you question, why is this person not being granted the opportunity to fight their case out of custody? So Sean Diddy Combs, formerly Puff Daddy and all of the above, was actually arrested in September of 2024 following an investigation. His house was raided, as well as several items that have hit the news were confiscated in these raids. He is currently being charged with sex trafficking, racketeering, conspiracy, and transportation to engage in prostitution, with more cases and charges possibly pending. Today, Diddy has pleaded not guilty, and that is his affirmation in regards to the cases, even to this day. In Diddy's case, he was denied bail even after 3 attempts, which is pretty interesting. His attorneys even offered up a $50 million amount to cover the bail proceedings. They offered for him to live in a 3-bedroom house on the Upper East Side of New York with private security, him being under 24-hour surveillance. And even after all of these options were provided to the court, the judge still ultimately denied Diddy the right for bail. So while Diddy's defense attorney was able to offer all of these things that he would do in exchange for being released on bail, the prosecuting attorney really brought forth evidence from the community, and actually on behalf of the judge from the community, with real expressed concerns. Really, issues were around community safety, which again is a justifiable reason to deny bail, as well as concerns around tampering with information. And this is really in regards to the potentiality of compromising any witnesses who may ultimately come forth and speak against Diddy. So at this point, Diddy's bail has and continues to be denied. And these are the reasons why. So in the most recent court ruling, the judge stated as to why the reasons for Diddy's denial of bail. The court finds that the government has shown by clear and convincing evidence that no condition or combination of conditions will reasonably assure the safety of the community. In addition, there's compelling evidence of Combs's propensity for violence, and that if released while awaiting trial, there's evidence supporting a serious risk of witness tampering. And so these statements are pretty inflammatory, especially to be issued by a judge that is hearing a bail application in court. So again, it makes you really concerned and question like what is going on? If most people, even for like murders, can be released on bail, and someone who's offering up $50 million has their own place, private security, and all of these other things that typically ground them to a community in place, why then would their bail be denied? Now, let's examine the justification behind the bail denial a little bit closer. So, no condition or combination of conditions will reasonably assure the safety of the community. This is from the judge's statement, which is actually a pretty profound statement. I mean, the community is out here living well, being fine, but if Diddy is released, then the safety of the community could be compromised. Makes you question, like, what extent and what reach does he have with the possibility of harming people or bringing ill will towards others? Something to think about. Compelling evidence of Combs's propensity for violence, which again is a continuation of the judge's statements here. So not only are we concerned about the overall community's well-being upon his release, but the fact that the concern really hinges upon the fact that he's a threat or a violence threat or concern around that is also something that we should really take note of. Again, these are all valid justifications for bail to be denied. We just don't typically see bail denials for these types of charges. And so, even though this is the information that has been presented at this point, I'm inclined to believe that there's going to be additional charges that will ensue that will actually further support the denial of the bail and really highlight the concerns as we're talking about the violence and the community safety aspect of it as well. And then this last point that the judge spoke on, witness tampering. This is not just having a conversation with the witness. This is actually possibly scaring someone to the point where they forget what is going on, or to the point where they flee the area so that they're no longer being contacted by legal representation with the hopes of them not coming to testify. Or at the worst end, if we think about it, even efforts to unalive somebody so that they're not available to speak out against any of the allegations that were filed against Diddy. So this issue of the bail denial is much deeper than him just staying in custody and it being the third attempt. This is actually pretty credible concern about his reach, the possibility of others being harmed as a result of the case and all of the court hearings as they continue to ensue, and how essentially the judge and the judicial system in this instance is really working to ensure that all of the voices of the victims are heard and that there's nothing that compromises the court case outcomes. As we wrap up and reflect on this high profile case, I really want for you to take away the fact that the system is actually in play and it's actually working to protect us. If a judge is stepping out and expressing concerns around community safety, and then also acting in alignment to maintain community safety by maintaining someone incarcerated, maybe that's a sign that the system is here and is actually protecting us and working on our behalf. And so being mindful of that. And so even though we have Diddy, this powerful hip hop mogul who has this far reach of access and money and all of the things that wealth brings with it, he's still being held to the same standard that you and I would be held accountable to if we were being charged with these types of allegations. So hopefully that leaves you in a space where you're able to feel good about the effectiveness and the inner workings of our justice system. Not to mitigate or to lack of acknowledgement of the concerns that exist within the system, but when we actually get to see it working to benefit and to protect us all. And so this case with Diddy is an example of the system working to protect us. Stay tuned for future coverage of this ever evolving case involving Diddy. I will be sure to provide updates on our next episode of Want More with Dr. Moore, the criminologist of the Bay, as I continue to examine this case and continue to provide you with updates. Stay tuned for updates as the trial approaches, and be sure to follow, share, and like Walk More with Dr. Moore, the criminologist of the Bay, as I examine cases and break down and provide you with updates as they continue to progress. Until next time, educate, empower, and enact the changes you want to see. Want more.